You're welcome.
I usually have a big sticky note that says record on my screen. Sticky note.
All right, so we'll just want everybody to mute, except Mom, you can stay on. All right. We'll go ahead and get started. Is
everybody muted?
Here. No, there's a few that aren't muted.
Okay, I'm going through and muting them.
Okay. All right, we should be good. Thank you all for joining us on a Sunday afternoon. We'll try to keep it short and be respectful of your time. Mom, am I too loud?
No.
My last Zoom call, I was really loud.
I'm used
all right,
to
so wow. All right, so I cannot tell you guys how excited I am about this book. Anybody else excited? I'm so excited. I'm like, this is what I've been missing my whole life. Not even just my Plexus business, my whole life. This is what has been missing, and I'm so excited to get into it. So,
can I say something? I'm excited that Rossie's reading it and she's liking it. She doesn't like.
I'm so happy about that. Oh gosh, I'm so happy. Okay, so chapter 1, we'll try to go through this quickly. And again, we'll do the same thing. So any feedback or anything you think of later, go back to this post on my team page or on Mom's team page if you're on her team page, and leave your feedback in the comments of this post for this Zoom call. If you're searching it, if somebody missed it, if some of your team members missed it, tell them to search on either team page 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, and this will be week 2, where we're actually covering chapter 1. The law of the lid. So first I want to talk about, we didn't really get to go over it when Bridget was on last time. So I just wanted to read through the 4 rules that go along with all these laws that we're going to be going over. Number 1, the laws can be learned. Some are easier to understand and apply than others, but every one of them can be acquired. You don't have to be a born leader. That's what I love about this. 2, the laws can stand alone. Each law complements all of the others, but you don't need one in order to learn the other. Number 3, the laws carry consequences with them. Apply the laws and people will follow you. Violate or ignore them and you will not be able to lead others. That's huge and very important. All of them are important, but that was a big one for me. Number 4, these laws are the foundation of leadership. Once you learn the principles, you have to practice them and apply them in your life. How many times do we read something or learn something new and we get so excited about it, but then we don't take the necessary steps to apply those to our lives? And it's like we, just lost something. We had a piece of gold in our hands and we just kind of threw it away and forgot about it. So we don't want to do that this time. So the first rule, the law of the lid. Was there anything, so you can unmute yourself if you have any kind of feedback when I ask this question. Was there anything that stuck out to you in this chapter, the law of the lid, before I kind of start dissecting it a little bit? Did anybody have anything that kind of stuck out to them for this chapter?
I'll speak up here. I know that I wondered why the law of the lid was the first one, the first law that we were going to talk about. But as I've been going through this book, everything else fits underneath that law of the lid. And you might grow stronger in one area and not in another area, but you can raise that lid. That lid's always there. So it's encouraging to me, but it's also frustrating. I have a lot of lid.
Yeah. Oh, I have a lot of lid. One thing I think, it was almost like an epiphany, right? When I first started reading this was I learned that my limit, I'm always saying I'm so limited. I feel like I'm so limited all the time, right? But I learned that my limit is actually my lid. This was monumental because I realized I was not limited to my lid. I always felt limited by my limitations, like I'm limited if I'm doing something, if I'm running, I'm limited to how fast I can run. Well, I was missing that point that if I trained and did exercises and worked myself harder, I could push past that limitation. And I think we don't even go that far. We just stop at our limits and we're like, well, I'm done. I reached my limit. I've tapped out and I'm done. So I realized that I'm not limited to my lid. I can raise that lid. So you all know that I like a good word picture, so I'm going to give you a couple good word pictures in this. When I joined Plexus, I felt like Bridget straight up threw me in a lake. Like, here you go. And I didn't know how to swim. And so I'm always telling her, I'm like a little, she's like this elegant swimmer, and that's a perfect word picture because she did her 100 miles before delivery. And I'm like that drowning chihuahua trying to keep up behind her. You can picture it. That was me. Like, she threw me in and I'm like, I don't even know what drowning dog. And so reading this, and I've done okay at keeping afloat and keeping my head above water, I was doing okay. But then this book came, and even in the introduction, it was like a life preserver was thrown to me. And, but not just the life preserver, it was like I was thrown the goggles and the flippers and one of those cute little swimming hats and a personal trainer. I was given the tools that I needed to, lift my lid a little bit. And I was thinking back to when I first started. And I listened to another one of these type Zoom calls, a girl, Lori, a sideline sister, and she was saying she was kind of a born leader. So I can relate to that a little bit. I'm a firstborn, like she's a firstborn. And, I've always just kind of been bossy. My nickname, Ricky always called me Bossy Rossie. Most my whole life, Bossy Rossie. So I can relate to that. I was kind of, some of us are kind of born more leader type. However, where I'm different than her, as she was kind of describing her leadership skills and how that kind of gave her a leg up, I'm always telling, and I think of Bridget too, because she's, one of my best friends and whatever, I'm like, I'll do like the necessary things, but can I just do it with your face? Can I just tell you what needs to be said and you say it? I lack confidence. I don't want, this limelight, any kind of spotlight on me, I don't like it. I totally lack confidence. So that was limiting my lid. Whereas I might have a few good key leadership qualities, I wasn't able to get past that for them even to be used or good, to have. So anyway, looking back, sorry, rabbit trails. I got to keep going back to my notes or I'm going to get way off. Going back to when I first started in that kind of drowning dog, I was pulling out everything I could to try to keep, my head above water. As far as Plexus goes, I think we can apply this to all areas of our life. But as far as Plexus goes, I was pulling out my calculator and trying to use numbers. I was pulling out rewards and trying to reward people. And I was pulling out all of the wrong tools to try to get the results that I wanted. And it's that realization that we can only go so far with the wrong tools. It's like mining for gold with a hammer instead of a pickaxe. You're not going to get very far. So you'll get a little ways, but you're not going to get very far. So we can raise our lid. Many of us choose to stay stuck. And that, I think even in the beginning, that was kind of where I was at. We don't want to admit we can improve. We don't want to admit that we need help. We maybe are lazy. Maybe we lack self-discipline. Maybe we have pride, which I think was a lot my problem. It's just pride. I can do this and I'm gonna try my best. And if my team is failing or falling or points are going down, I had a lot of things I could blame it on, right? I don't have a runner, or I'm just not a people person, or, I could have all these things I could blame it on when really I was just being lazy and I had a lack of self-discipline and I was not wanting to do the things needed to raise my lid. However, at that time, I didn't know that I had a lid that I need raised. So it goes back to that ignorance is not always bliss. My ignorance was hindering me. So this is where we get to see the difference between, another word picture, a bucking bronco and a workhorse, right? The bronc, so this is the difference between somebody who just stays stuck and somebody who decides to do what's needed to progress. So we have the bucking bronco that stays in the field grazing, and you know, he's got the life and he doesn't have to do much and he can lay in the sun and blissful until that moment when he's called to step up, right? Then the cinch is tight, he's uncomfortable, and he bucks and thrashes around, right? Frantic and frenzied, we try to gain control only to find ourselves tired and broke, literally, right? Then you've got the workhorse. The workhorse is fed good things. It's tailored and exercised. It clips it, its hooves are clipped. It can go long, hard hours without even breaking a sweat. It's steady, sure, head down. It knows where it's supposed to go, and it takes those heavy, methodical steps to get from point A to point B. But not only that, he has trained himself. He's trained to be open, ready, and responsive to commands. We're teachable. The workhorse needs to be teachable, and I think that was my greatest flaw. My thing that kept my lid so low is sometimes I can be that person because I am kind of type A or whatever. I can know it all. I just know it all, and I don't need you to tell me anything. And, you know, or, you know, I try not to be rude, so a lot of times I would just say, oh, yeah, that's great, but then I'm never going to use it. So we need to be teachable. We need to be doing those things that our uplines are telling us to do, that sidelines are telling us to do, that this book, I mean, it's like our personal swimming instructor. We need to be open and ready and willing to take those necessary steps. Okay, now about the chapter itself. I loved this chapter. I even just told my kids are now going to be reading this book. It's their assignment. Gabrielle and Abraham, they're going to be reading this book now because I'm like, you don't want to turn out like the McDonald's brothers. You want to turn into the other guy, right? So again, unmute yourself if you think of an answer. What did Ray Kroc have that the brothers did not have? Did everybody read the book or the first chapter? If you didn't, I'll kind of rephrase a little bit. I see that most of you have. I can't see a few of you, but if you didn't, the McDonald brothers, you know, started their little food business, which ended up being this, it ended up being McDonald's, but they didn't ever take it to the McDonald's franchise because their lid was, you know, very small. So what did Ray Kroc have? What did he come in with that the brothers did not have? Does anybody want to answer that? No? Mom?
Rachel.
Oh, Rachel. Can you unmute her, Mom?
Am I unmuted?
There you go.
Am I good?
You're good.
Okay, I'm driving, so thank you. I think one of the main things that he had was teachability, and that he kept bringing in leaders and asked, like, he would invest in those people to come and teach him. And I read it like 5 in the morning and fell back asleep, so I'm trying to remember a little bit. But I think that is definitely what you're talking about right there. So, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Could you mute me again?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask Mom a question too here in a minute. I loved it. So he came in, he had a vision, he had a bigger picture, right? And he made sacrifices for that bigger picture. So his view was from this, where the McDonald's brothers were seeing something so small because their lid was not allowing them to see past that. He comes in with this bigger view and this lofty lid because he knows how to be a leader. So Mom had shared something on another Zoom that I wanted her to share today about family Christian stores. So Mom, take it away. Your little thing on leadership, what a good leader is.
Well, I worked for family Christian stores for about 15 years, and I noticed that a lot of the managers that were there, they didn't train properly their people. And it was always my goal as a manager that when I walked away from that store, that you didn't even know I was gone. Well, whether it would be because these leaders or these other managers might have felt threatened, or they were lazy, or whatever, they had a lid so that when they walked away from the store, it was just chaotic. And so that was one of the things that I noticed as far as a lid goes for me. And then I was going to say too, one of our sister sidelines, Bethany, she pointed out that this Ray, he sacrificed. He gave up several years, I think, of his salary to invest in these people. And then he also went in there and he saw the ones that, you know, they had a lid or they weren't producing or whatever, and he 86'd them. So he had to do hard things and he had to make sacrifices. So
yeah, I loved learning that about him. And I loved where in the chapter they brought up that when a company comes in to kind of overhaul another company that's failing or kind of going under, their first order of business is to take out the leadership. And so when, was it John Maxwell had asked, like, you don't even go in and see, you know, what's going wrong or whatever. They always say no, because if they were any kind of good leader, they would not be in the position that they're in. So thankfully, we're in a position where we can revamp. Nobody gets to take us out, but we're kind of at that crossroad where we need to grow as leaders. And so, you know, I think the reason this book excites me so much is that you guys have heard me say it a lot of times. There's no hope if there's nothing that we can change. And I hear in this business so much now that there's a team, you know, we're a team, almost 500 people. Our little team is almost 500 people. So I'm getting to hear all of the excuses that I have had too. But, you know, and it's the discouragement. I'm stuck. I don't know where to go. You know, I don't have any runners. All of those things are hard. But this is a place where we can take a step back and realize, you know what? It's my leadership. I'm lacking in my leadership. That's why I'm stuck. People are not. I love the next chapter because I went ahead and listened to the next chapter, which is on influence. I want to be a person of influence. I want to be the type of leader and raise my lid so high that it becomes something that other people want to follow and learn and grow that same way. I don't want to stay stuck, because if I stay stuck, that means all of you stay stuck. So it's our responsibility as leaders of teams to make sure we're continually raising that lid. You know what we said before, I love Plexus in that you guys can all pass me up, right? But if you pass me up, I will be your number one cheerleader. But that also means that you have leadership qualities that I'm lacking. So I should probably be learning from you. So, but we want to be those leaders of our teams that we are keep raising our lids so that we have something to offer and pass down and feed our team, help tailor those workhorses, or they're not going to have the proper tools or be exercised well enough to be able to be any kind of success, you know. I wanted to read the definition for, yes.
Sorry. You know, you were talking about horses and workhorses. We have Poncho and Lefty, 2 draft horses, and they pull a wagon. But if one's pulling more so than the other one, your wagon isn't going to go straight. So I kind of went ahead in some of the chapters too, and it made me cry because there's so many places where I'm lacking in leadership. There's a strong, maybe I have charisma and I have followers, but if I don't know how to lead those people, then I'm going crooked. And so it gives you hope that we can develop those areas, because I do want to be a good leader.
Right. I wrote down in my notes too. I'm glad you reminded me of that, because going back to the McDonald brothers and what's his name again? I keep forgetting his name. Roy. What's his name? Kroc something. Anyway, I wrote this down in my notebook that wanting it isn't enough. That's what I see. That's that bronc horse. That's that frantic, frenzied. They come into it, they come out of the gate all raring and ready to go, but it goes nowhere. Wanting it isn't enough. Having the vision, it isn't enough. You have to take the necessary steps to get there. And that's where we miss it. We want it, we're ready to work. You can even work hard, but if you're working with the wrong tools, again, you're not going to get very far. So that it goes back to that balancing those areas of strengths and weaknesses. In another feed, we talked about stating our weakness. A lot of us, I'm not one who, well, now I'm like, you guys can look at me under a microscope and hopefully you learn something or can tell me something about myself that I can't see. I'm game for that. But we don't like to share our vulnerable places. We don't like to share the things that we're not good at. But we need to state those things so that we can start eliminating them or working on them and getting better. So I am all for, I wrote out my weaknesses, all the things I'm not good at. Then I wrote down, because I think we need to focus too on the things we are good at, because those are the things we really need to be doing more of. And our weaknesses are the things we need to be working on constantly. So I would recommend that even before we keep going through this book, is writing down your strengths and your weaknesses so that you can work on and grow and utilize more what's working for you. I would recommend that for everybody. So the kind of definition for this explains it really well, and I loved it. And then we'll kind of open it up for some questions. Leadership ability is the lid that determines a person's level of effectiveness. The lower an individual's ability to lead, the lower the lid on his potential. The higher the individual's ability to lead, the higher the lid on his potential. Leadership ability, or more specifically, the lack of leadership ability, was the lid on the McDonald's brothers' effectiveness. So this is kind of where we're at. This is that crossroad where a lot of people will find themselves, especially in a network marketing company like we're in. You get to this place where you feel stuck. And I think that's what I've been hearing a lot lately. It's just stuck. It's not going anywhere. I'm not moving fast enough. Well, this is you are being handed the tools that you need. Whether or not you use those tools, that's on you. We can drag those workhorses to the water, but we can't make you guys drink. So this is where, the rubber meets the road, and you guys need to use the tools. I need to use the tools. And again, going back to that, if there is no hope in there if there's nothing that we can change. And I'm at that place where I'm like, there is a lot I can change. There is a lot about me as a person, spiritually, physically, emotionally, as a leader, that I can change. And I'm so excited to be seeing those areas are a little bit shown on me. And because a year ago, I would never have been on a Zoom call, ever. I don't want to be that face. I don't mind telling people what to do, but I'd rather just do it behind the scenes and not be in that limelight. But that's pride and some weird what do you call false humility, and I'm glad that I can say those things, because then I can start eliminating them and working on them. But are there any questions? I really want to keep this under a half an hour, so we're at 26 minutes. Does anybody have any questions or anything they would like to add?
I think one question is for people to think about somebody that they know that has no lid, that just keeps going.
Yeah, can anybody think of somebody that they know that does not have a lid? They don't seem to have a leadership lid. It's just endless. Can anybody think of anyone?
Well, I thought of Rhonda Shaw.
Rhonda Shaw.
Lid.
Yep. And why is that? When we kind of look at Rhonda, what are we constantly seeing? We're seeing a consistency of pouring into herself, pouring into her, leadership abilities, reading the books, paying to go to the trainings. She's constantly developing her leadership. And who is that affecting? That's affecting all of us. Thousands of people, where she's working on herself. A lot of times I would be, we're that I'm a homeschool mom. And so for me to go get my toenails done, I might feel selfish, like I'm pouring into myself. Well, pouring into ourselves on this kind of level oftentimes requires sacrifice. I know a lot of us would have other things we would like to do on a Sunday afternoon than be on a Zoom call. But this is pouring into ourselves in a way that will bless and benefit everyone under us, everyone around us. I can't even tell you, I think I'm a better mom after reading chapter 1 of this stupid book. I'm so excited. So anyway, yes, Rhonda Shaw. Can anybody think of somebody who has a really small or short leadership lid? Offhand, anybody? Myself. I think of myself, but it doesn't, I know, that doesn't discourage me anymore. This actually, I have so much, I don't think I've ever had so much hope that, you know what, I've identified the problem. You know, for so long, I know that there's something wrong, something missing. I'm missing something. My team is not growing like it should be, or my kids, you know, every area of my life. My kids are stunted or something's not right. I finally identified the problem. I need to grow. I need to lift that lid in every area of my life. So that's who I think of as me, and I'm lacking that leadership, those leadership qualities that I need to be successful. So
I think that that's what's neat about this book is this doesn't have to just apply to plexus. This applies to your life.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yes. All right. Does anybody have any?
I unmuted myself. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I think I'm recognizing those limitations. Well, I know I'm recognizing those limitations and what I need to work on. But it's that self-discipline, that thing that's the one that I have the hardest time with. Like, I can sit down, think I'm going to do these messages, and I know that working the business is not scrolling Facebook, but guess what? 30 minutes later, I just wasted 30 minutes scrolling Facebook and commenting on people's posts. And I'm starting to understand more about just getting into it. But by the time I'm like, okay, you know, I'm going to do this, somebody wakes up from a nap or, you know, needs a diaper changed. And I'm like, why did I just do that? So, like, I know you had a lot of discipline and you worked the business. And was there like a trigger thing that I know that's your personality more too, but was there something that like you kind of just like a trigger or something that you would do that would just kind of put you in that mode?
I think
Rossie?
I think one of the things that think of is
I can't hear you.
Mom, Rachel. Oh, there we go.
When you
What did you say, Mom?
When you guys did your blitz kind of thing, we need to blitz every day. And I know what Rachel's talking about. Fear is at the bottom of all that because I have that same thing. But the discipline, I think she's asking what you do.
Yeah, I lack discipline in a lot of areas. However, when I get to the point of desperation, that's my trigger. And that's kind of where I was at when I started this. I was desperate. Our family was desperate, and I knew what had to be done. Now, on that same note, like, I agree, the blitz and whatever, but you have to practice self-control. You have to learn to be a master of your moments. You have to, on a very small scale, beat your flesh into submission. You know, like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to invest in this. I know what needs to be done. And the fault is mine if it doesn't get done. At the end of the day, when I lay my head on my pillow, the fault's mine. If I didn't get my 15, I'm telling you guys, 15 minutes a day, you know? And so if I could go to bed at night and I didn't put in my 15 minutes, I knew who was to blame. And therefore, all my excuses were eliminated. I didn't have an excuse at the end of the day because I just didn't do it. I have 15 minutes. There was no reason I couldn't set aside the time to put in the 15 minutes. So it really is on that small scale, beating your flesh into submission. It's something I have to do every day, you know? So that was kind of my thing, but it was a desperate place for me. but I don't think you have to be there. I kind of came out of this like the bucking bronco. And so I would go, and then I would be tired. And then I would go, and then I would be tired. But then you lack the consistency, and that's key. We're told that cliche comment, consistency is key. We can't go to the gym and work out for a week straight and then come home and not work out for 3 weeks and then be so disappointed that we haven't lost any weight. That's not how it works. You have to go to the gym. Even if you know, it's a few minutes you get to go to the gym. It's that consistency that eventually is going to lead to progress. So if you're lacking that consistency, you can work like a buck and bronco, work your tail off, frantically working. But if that's not your consistent, okay, Bridget is the bucking bronco that never gets tired. She came out of it but she was consistent being a bucking bronco. You can be consistent being a bucking bronco, then be the bucking bronco for Pete's sake, be the bronco. But most of us are not built that way. And so we have to be that workhorse that continually does the things that we need to do to progress and to move forward. Tailoring ourselves. That's, I think, what a lot of us miss is tailoring ourselves and bettering ourselves and trying to read these, this is like a great book full of great stuff. And, I just think you can even listen to it on YouTube for free. There's no reason people should not be doing this if they want to be successful in their business. And really, you have no excuse if at the end of the day, you're not successful and your business is not successful, but you didn't do those things to tailor yourself. Well, the fault is yours. If at the end of the day, you go to bed and you didn't put in your 15 minutes, well, I'm sorry, you got to put in that 15 minutes a day and you got to do it consistently, So I don't know if that answered your question, Rachel, but it's kind of a long one. Anyone else? It is so hot in Bakersfield. I'm sweating my tail off right now. You can probably see sweat dripping.
It's not.
No one else? I know, it's cold there. All right, so we'll kind of wrap this up. Sorry, we went a few minutes over. But so chapter 2, we'll do for next Sunday. Chapter 2, I think we're going to we're going to interview someone special, a sideline. So I'm excited for that one. That one is the law of influence. It's so good. It's so good. All of them are good, but these first ones are really good. So we'll do that. If you guys think of anything afterwards, go and put it on the post, and we'll try to keep it all to one post. So everything on week 1, everything on week 2. We'll put the Zoom call on week 2. And my notes are kind of chicken scratch, but I did print them out. So I might even put that on there for those who weren't able to get on the call. So Mom, would you pray for us?
Yep.
Close us in prayer.
Lord, I thank you so much for this time that we can come together, not only sisters in this business, but also sisters in Christ. I pray that you would help us to retain the things that we learn from this book and from the Zoom calls that we have, and help us to apply them. Help us to remember that it's not about us, it's about others. When we are developing ourselves, it just affects so many people, which is the same way in our Christian walk. So thank you for these ladies. Bless them, be with them throughout the week. Bless their children and their families and their husbands. And we just thank you that you will keep us until we come together again. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
All right. Thank you guys all for coming on here and sacrificing. I know it's a sacrifice, so I'm thankful. And anyway, love you all, praying for you this week. And hey, one more thing. So in like 3 hours, 4, 5, 6, 7, there's another Zoom call that's going to be amazing. So I'm going to go and write notes for the next Zoom call because I'm a procrastinator. That's one of my lids I'm trying to lift. But it's a good one. It's on social media training, Facebook, Instagram, all of that kind of good stuff. So it will be a good one with Cheryl Wood, Bridget, and I, and Andrea. So anyway, go take a rest. I'm going to go work in the garden and then come in and do that other Zoom call. So hopefully we'll see some of you guys there. Love you all.